September 7th, 2018, the release date of Marvel's Spider-Man. I've been a Spider-Man fan since the first time I've played the Spider-Man game on PlayStation 1 when I was like 5 years old. Since then, I've played pretty much every Spider-Man game. Some were pretty good, some are okay, and some were awful. My favorite was of course Spider-Man Web of Shadows. A good game with interesting story, great atmosphere, combat and web swinging. Even though there were a lot of Spider-Man games before the PS4 one that had some unique and creative stuff in them, a lot of them were really goofy niche games that were only made to make quick money, especially the movie tie-ins. But then Insomniac Games dropped the first Spider-Man PS4 trailer and it was mind-blowing. A proper AAA Spider-Man game. Even though I did not have a PlayStation 4 and my only choice was beating the game on YouTube, I was still hyped. The game released, it received positive reviews from pretty much everyone and was a huge success. After a few years I was able to play it and it was incredible. This game is the ultimate version of a Spider-Man video game. Gameplay, story, characters, graphics, open world, everything just works. Of course there were some controversial, or may I say bad decisions like the MJ or Miles missions, but overall it was a really good game. It kept you glued to your seat until the end. Around the time I first played through Spider-Man PS4, Miles Morales was released at the end of 2020. It was a pretty mediocre game, but it had some good stuff in it like the much improved web swinging, the stunning soundtrack and the Christmas atmosphere. It was the first game ever about Spider-Man to have snow. I love winters, so any game to be set in the winter setting gets a praise from me. For what it was, I've had fun with this game, and I always come back to it around Christmas because of the atmosphere. My first reaction to the Spider-Man 2 gameplay showcase was something similar to this.
You have no idea. This whole blizzard hunt ends now.
I was speechless. We've seen games previously that feature multiple Spider-Man, but they were linear, and this is open world and you can instantly switch between them. This had such huge potential to be the best Spider-Man game ever. I wondered how they are going to implement Miles in Peter's symbiote arc and how Craven might be involved in it. How far will he push Peter? Will he kill somebody? We used to speculate with my brother that since this game features two Spider-Man, then a co-op game could potentially be in the game. It probably sounded too ambitious, but knowing that there actually was a multiplayer game in development, this idea was not that far-fetched. Some time passed, new trailers and information about the game released, hyping everybody to the upcoming release, and when it came out, I did not have an opportunity to play it, but when I did, let's just say it was not at all what I was expecting. But hey, let's start off with something positive. You know, other characters have combat, exploration and puzzle mechanics that can be usually similar, but a lot of characters have their own traversal mechanics. Batman uses cape gliding, assassins use parkour, GTA characters drive vehicles, and Spider-Man has web swinging, so let's start off with it, the best part of the game. It's no surprise to anyone at this point that this is a massive improvement over the first game in terms of correcting its mistakes and adding new stuff to liven up the gameplay and bring depth to it. I was hoping even before the first teaser dropped that they would remake the swinging so it would be less casual and hand-holding, maybe something similar to Spider-Man 2 from 2004, make it more physics-based and harder to use, because in the first game it was actually hard to mess up your swinging completely. The system looked pretty, but that is pretty much it. The hand-holding was insane sometimes, there was a lot of janky behavior as well. But it had potential, it just needed more depth and player expression. And the devs delivered that in the sequel. They improved the original swinging mechanic by quite a bit. Firstly, the base physics was improved. It actually feels like you're swinging from webs now. But it's still not physics based. It kind of is, but there are a lot of moments that make no sense in terms of physics. Like here for example, the loop move can be really janky in visuals and in gameplay. But now it thankfully no longer feels like the game corrects your mistake at every swing. It still kind of does, but not as strong as it was before. They also increased the speed. You can now cover the map in seconds, which wasn't possible previously due to technical limitations. Secondly, the devs worked on correcting mistakes of the first game, fixing old issues and adding new features to keep the flow going, like web wings, wind tunnels, the loop-de-loop, and the slingshot. Web wings are the best addition in my opinion. It would have been tedious to traverse the map in some places if it weren't for them. They are also a great way to keep your momentum when you are not sure what to do next. Wind tunnels though can be a little over the top sometimes due to them giving you insane speed at the press of a button. In my opinion, this kind of speed should be earned. They make web wings so incredibly fast that it is sometimes pointless to use anything else. Peter is finally able to do proper air tricks and is overall more expressive in his animations. I like to think that Miles inspired him to be more expressive with his own style of swinging. Peter's air tricks in the first game were very clunky, especially in the original edition, not a remaster. There was an awkward button prompt that you had to hold, for some reason huge input delay, and on top of that the actual tricks felt unresponsive and not satisfying to use. They were not connected with the swinging animations at all. This air trick system was entirely redone in Miles Morales. Now there are a lot of tricks that Miles can do that are animated flawlessly and are connected with his swinging animations. No rough transitions, nothing like that, everything is smooth. And with that absolutely beautiful air trick system transported in the second game, with new mechanics like the web wings and on top of the much improved physics, it feels amazing to swing around the city. The only nitpick that I have is that Miles' animations haven't changed much compared to Peter. He has a lot of new good animations that fit his character and his own set of air tricks. Miles has a few new animations, but all the old ones are still present. I don't really think Miles' animations fit him in the sequel because he's a much experienced Spider-Man now compared with the previous game. He still has this goofiness in his swinging animations that used to highlight how inexperienced Miles is compared to Peter. But Miles is pretty much on par with Peter now, so I don't get why his animations were not changed even a little. Also, you can do this, if you're skilled enough. And finally, the third feature is something that I was personally blown away with. It's now possible to customize your swinging experience. I'm talking about the swing assist. It can be casual like before, or it can be more realistic. You won't be able to just swing straight through the streets. You'll need to adjust yourself depending on the physics. You see, I've played the first game and Miles Morales for quite a lot of time, and the swinging, how easy it is, can become really boring after playing the game for hundreds of hours. And so when I was scrolling one day on YouTube, I came across this video. This guy thought the same and invented his own style of swinging, in which you cannot air control Spider-Man at all. You'll be forced to swing realistically by sort of simulating real swinging physics, like no turning during the swing, etc. This little change in the way you swing made the traversal mechanics so much more interesting. You constantly think how to swing around the buildings and not just hold the left stick forward and fly to your destination effortlessly. And when I saw that the developers have made an option to tune your swinging to your liking, make it cinematic like before or make it more skillful, I couldn't believe my eyes. This little option in the settings is like a blessing. Thank you Insomniac Games for this. But as incredible as this new swinging is, I can't overlook the bad parts like the wonky physics and restrictions that are still present 2 games later. Just look at how ugly the loop can be. Previous games also had air control, but in those games it was actually pretty hard to swing, it took skill. If the next game will have the exact same core swinging mechanic, it will be disappointing. Combat, if you can believe it, has similar kind of flow, but it's really easy to mess up and lose your combo, especially on the higher difficulties. Now I would like to quickly mention the soundtrack before we move on to the combat. It fits the game, I guess it sounds pretty good. There are a few tracks that stand out, like the main theme, the Kraven's theme, and Venom's theme. But overall, the music that plays is not as good as before in my opinion. It's kind of generic, especially compared to the first game and the Miles Morales, and it especially loses when compared to the swinging themes. With how incredible those themes were, these swinging themes from the sequel feel like lo-fi music. Don't get me wrong, I like them, they are good, but just not at the same level as the music we heard previously. Okay to listen to in the background during gameplay, but they don't hit as hard as before. There is no desire to keep swinging because of it or to re-listen to it outside of the game. Here, take a listen for yourself and tell me which is better in your opinion.
Face punch it is.
Combat is the next mechanic that was essential in Spider-Man games since even before he was running around in 3D. And combat here is literally amazing. It's an upgraded combat from the first game with more moves and stuff to play around with, more enemy types, more difficulty overall, but it never becomes too difficult. But also there were some things that were taken away, like the web gadgets. They are completely different and in a way nerfed and combined versions of their former selves. And I'm really sad to see the old ones gone. It's like they threw the gadgets of two previous games in a blender and put whatever was left of them in the game. They were cut in half to, I guess, make room on the controller to have new abilities, the ones we've seen in Miles Morales, and to solve the issue of pausing the game to choose what gadget you wanted to use. I've never been bothered by this issue, but apparently a lot of people complained about it, so they fixed this issue. And the new abilities. I really can't take them seriously in a Spider-Man game, because this is a straight-up copy of the magic abilities from the Assassin's Creed games. Even the HUD is the same. And my opinion is that I think they should have stick to making interesting gadgets or making something entirely different. Like, I don't see how this fits Spider-Man. I really like the mechanic of webbing people up to walls and floors. This was an incredible addition, something that TASM Games came up with, but Insomniac perfected it. And I've been doing this throughout all three games, but I barely use the new abilities. I don't know why they chose to do this, because they straight up copied this mechanic with all its problems. They have a very long cooldown and don't reset after a fight, so on average you'll be able to use these new abilities once per encounter. And the other problem is they aren't very compatible with your other moves. The only thing you can do is bring them together with a gadget and use an AoE attack. Other times you'll be using these when their cooldown ends, without really thinking about it, just like in Assassin's Creed. Suit powers got retired to make room for a new mechanic that was introduced in Miles Morales in the form of Venom Blast. A huge explosion that pretty much kills everything in its radius. A similar power is given to Peter when he is bonded with the symbiote Surge. And what it is yet another rage ability. I guess it makes sense story-wise because Peter is angry and symbiote is making him angrier, but I'm once again upset because something cool and unique got replaced with something generic. We have all seen this mechanic before, numerous times, even in the previous Spider-Man games. Give us something new, something interesting. Like, yeah, it is a fun power, it works, but I'm just baffled as to why the devs chose to abandon their idea of many special powers that are unlocked alongside with the suits throughout the game. It also made you want to unlock new suits more because of it. I think this is chipping away freedom from the player, because these suit powers were all different. Some were similar to the rage ability, some were goofy, and some were fun gimmicks, another addition to play around with your abilities. While playing the game for the first time, these new enemy attacks were messing up my muscle memory really badly. I got destroyed a lot because of them. There has always been only one type of attack enemies could do, and the only counter has always been the dodge. Now there are two more, the ones that can only be blocked or parried and the ones that can only be dodged. I'm not saying that they're bad, I'm just saying that after the first two games, as soon as I see Spidey's head flash, I immediately press circle to dodge, or sometimes the X button if I'm in the air. And when I started playing, I was demolished by these new attacks, because I just kept dodging. Which is not the game's fault, it's totally mine and my inability to adapt to new things. But also Spider-Man is not really known as a guy who would block an attack or parry. From the perspective of gameplay, it makes sense, but we all know that Spider-Man is very agile, and he's always been making his acrobatics a form of art that we always love to see. He barely used blocking or parrying the way that we see it in the game. The only instance of it that I remember is in Web of Shadows, and in that game barely anyone used it because it wasn't satisfying and useful to do. In Spider-Man 2, blocking feels a lot better and is more integrated into combat. Parrying opens up enemies for attacks, but dodging will always be the strategy that makes a lot more sense for Spider-Man to do. So, what can I say about the combat in this game? Honestly, I am conflicted because the sequel brought some new very nice mechanics that feel amazing to do and are pretty useful. But also it got rid of a lot of things that I loved about the combat of the first game. And also it doesn't make our Spider-Man different from one another. And it's a huge missed opportunity to have a game with two superheroes who feel almost the same. They try to change a few things, introduce something new, but in general the combat is pretty much the same as it was in 2018. You punch, dodge, use gadgets and abilities, web people to surfaces, and fill the focus bar to heal or do a finisher. Oh, and I completely forgot about stealth, which is not surprising because it's the least fun thing to do in this game. It's been completely stripped down of any kind of challenge. Enemies are completely blind, so it's really easy to sneak up on them and press square. And because the old gadgets are gone now, you can't use them in stealth. You can maybe web someone up to a wall with your web shooters, but that's it. And also there are these web lines that you can walk on, and it makes stealth even easier, so there are literally no challenge involved. No fun to be had, and really no reason to use stealth in this game. Before we move on to the story, let's talk about the open world and the side content. The best thing about it is that it has great base gameplay to back it up. Otherwise, it's pretty mediocre, there is not much to say. Backpacks were replaced by spider bots, a way less interesting collectible. Instead of lore we get fan service, thanks I guess. Photographing landmarks was replaced by photographing interesting stuff happening around the city. These are actually pretty cool, I wish there were more of them. There are these so-called prowler stashes where you have to do a small puzzle and get some crafting materials. Mildly interesting lore about the prowler, and when all of them are completed you unlock one very short mission in which Miles' uncle gets a new apartment. They are extremely easy and I can't remember even one story prowler call. Then we have unidentified targets, a couple of missions where you have to follow a drone in a very boring chase sequence that leads to one mission containing a Web of Shadow reference.
You never cared to hear me play, but surely you remember this refrain.
And revealing that there is chameleon in this universe. I would rather do regular races from previous Spider-Man games than these web wings challenges. After the very first mission, Marco's memories are unlocked. Basically, you come to a place, beat up a couple of sand goons, and get a piece of backstory that explains why Sandman did what he did at the beginning of the game. And you get one cutscene at the end, groundbreaking stuff. It would have been much more fun if there were a lot more of these sand goons. You would have needed to use electricity or water to quickly dispatch them, like throw a barrel at them or whatever. But we don't have that. You can use electricity and it instantly kills them, but they are fairly weak, and so having a regular encounter with them isn't really that interesting. There are like 8 of them most of the time. And there are 2 combat-oriented side missions, hunter bases and symbiote nests. Or I guess 3 if you count hunter blinds. Or 4 if you count the Mysteriums, but I consider them a combat challenge rather than a combat encounter. Hunter blinds are basically like the hunter crimes that you can do in the open world, but with a bit more hunters. Also, there are 11 hunter blinds, which is way too many. They unlock the hunter bases, which are just a big combat or stealth encounter that give you a bit of Craven lore and the suit for Miles and Peter. And symbiote nests are pretty annoying combat encounters, where you have to protect a sonic device that will destroy the symbiote nests while they're trying to destroy the said device. The symbiotes are very annoying enemies because they do a lot of damage, they take a lot of damage, and you can't really play around with them as much as with the other enemy types, which is actually pretty similar to Web of Shadows, especially when the big guy comes in and he will take a lot of damage before going down. And the reward is a suit for Miles. The Mysteriums are very fun combat challenges where you have to complete different objectives, like taking out enemies in a specific way while under the time limit. For example, only doing finishers on enemies or throwing them off the map while dodging different hazards. Now this is actually what I would call good side content, because it gives you an incentive to play around with the sandbox, that is the combat system of this game, and also keeps you on your toes because the different modifications to the challenge. At the end you get a cool boss fight with the Mysterio, and you get a suit once again. The last side activity are the EMF experiments. This is like the Oscar research stations from the first game, only they are shorter, there are less of them, and you get a suit at the end. Again, these were all of the side activities. Now we get to the side quests, which are actually pretty good. Most of them anyway. We'll start with the worst one though, which is the Brooklyn Widget quests. They are pretty boring, except for one that has a puzzle where you have to use your brain a little bit. A really uncommon occurrence for Insomniac Spider-Man games. And the reward is a pretty ugly suit. Miles also helps out a museum in like 2 missions. They're okay, I guess, and you get to see this scene, which is pretty funny. Then there are the whole Flame side story that includes the Wraith, Cletus Cassidy, the Flame Cult, and Spider-Man, who in this game gets owned by everyone and saved by everyone, but we'll get to that in the discussion of the story. And the absolute best side quests, in my opinion, are the FNSM app requests. They can be sad, nostalgic, funny, and goofy quests where Spider-Man is helping out the people of New York. They are so good, and there are so few of them. Insomniac, please make more of them in the third game. Now a few words about the PC port. I've played the unofficial PC port when it was available. It was a pretty good port considering it was made by a few enthusiasts that had to recompile the entire game. It was playable from start to finish, even though it had some texture and lighting issues. So why am I telling you this? I've replayed the game when it came out officially on PC and I noticed something. This is the exact same port that was leaked, it has the exact same issues. And on top of that, it had some huge performance issues. A lot of people, myself included, had countless crashes. Before the first patches, I had to endure like 10 or more crashes to get into the game. It could crash at any moment of gameplay as well and refuse to work after that. It was horrendous. But apart from crashes, it ran pretty good on a PC that met the minimum requirements. Although when symbiote stuff appears, my PC was dying. It made the later parts of the game very painful to play and watch.
Whoa! That's... off you.
Do not call us. A thing. We are not here. We are.
Now that we've discussed the main mechanics of this game, let's talk about something that I was the most intrigued about, the story. And where do I even begin? I've heard a lot of opinions about it across the internet in the time that the game has been released. Some love it, some hate it, and some beat the game once and then never touched it again. As for me, I did not enjoy the story of this game. Firstly, because it's a total mess of ideas, characters, and storylines. It really feels like this game bit off more than it could chew. Secondly, because it is structurally similar to the story of the first game, but this time it's actually worse. Thirdly, because it's really sterile and safe. Let's start off with Peter. In the first game, he was a great character. He sacrificed everything to help others. Even when he was kicked out of his apartment and had to sleep on May's couch in Feast, he thought about how he can help others.
It's so humiliating taking money from May. I should head out into the city and try to pay it forward.
These qualities are still here in the sequel. He is drowning in debts, gets fired from his dream job after the first day, but he's always thinking about who he can help next.
Oh, in the meantime, let's see who we can help out here.
But his main problem in the sequel is that he's been heavily nerfed. Yes, I bet you've heard it a million times before, but it's true in my opinion. His nerfing in the second game is so bad that people are coming up with theories as to why he's so weak. I've heard that he still cannot move on after his aunt's death, and that makes him weaker. I guess this can be true, but also in the DLCs for the first game, Aunt May gets mentioned, but Peter seemed fine.
Remember what May used to say. You help someone, you help everyone.
May was pretty great, wasn't she?
The greatest. I'm gonna send you an address as soon as I'm done with all this, so stay ready. And bring those web shooters with you.
Finally!
He doesn't break down crying like in the second game, so I don't fully understand it. And also it's never really explored in the sequel. We don't see that Peter is carrying guilt. We've all seen how Uncle Ben's death motivated Peter to become Spider-Man. He grieved for a while, but eventually he picked himself up and started doing good. But when May dies, Peter can't move on for over 2 years. Maybe I'm just callous, but I do not understand how this works. Like, he still mourns May in his subconscious, and we see that, but there is no sign of Uncle Ben anywhere. Shouldn't he still remember him? The main reason he is Spider-Man to begin with? Anyway, the fact still stands that Peter is reliant on someone else to do the heavy lifting for him, and it is a huge downgrade from what we saw in the first game. Yes, he failed to do some things there too and received help, but what made him great is that he picked himself up and did what was previously thought to be impossible. Here though, he is not doing that. He gets owned by everyone. Kraven, Wraith, Sandman, Venom. He almost gets killed during every big mission. It's clearly seen that Miles is doing all the work for him, which sucks because Peter is supposed to be the teacher of Miles. But it honestly feels like it's the other way around. Peter is reliant on Miles' help pretty much throughout the entire game. Before we talk about his symbiote chapter, I want to talk about his death first. It's the most pathetic death of a superhero I have ever seen. Apart from Batman, of course. Why was he killed like this? From a single knife stab. For comparison, let's remember what Peter endured in the first game. He got stabbed and beaten up by Otto, the Sinister Six, thrown off the raft, was floating around it unconscious until he was found by Yuri, hit a wall on a high-speeding truck, Kingpin threw Spider-Man so hard the wall got broken. He survived everything, not without help, but he was alive for a long time after getting owned, and was treated. Here he dies insanely quickly from a knife stab as a guy with superpowers. It would have made sense if we were shown that Kraven was observing Spider-Man and created some kind of poison for him, maybe making it out of Scorpion's poison and put it on his knife and stabbed him with it, but no, this is just a knife.
I've seen this knife before.
Knife? What a knife? It's not just a fucking knife. It's art.
Actually, now that I remember it, we've been shown that Spider-Man is getting sloppier. Like that one time in the beginning of Miles Morales when he couldn't beat Rhino alone, but in the first game he defeated Rhino and Scorpion at the same time. But now he can't handle only Rhino, which is complete nonsense. His symbiote arc is a total mess. Starting off with the fact that during gameplay almost nothing changes, nothing even close to what we've seen in Web of Shadows. In that game, red and black suits had completely different movesets. Red suit was fast and agile, while black was heavy and powerful. I'm not asking for two completely different movesets. I want to at least feel powerful in the black suit. The only thing that is new is the rage ability. Cool the first couple of times, but gets boring pretty quickly because you're just mashing square over and over. Plus, there are only 2 animations when you defeat an enemy. I could get more value with just my default abilities, to be honest, and having a lot more fun doing it. And story-wise, it's a disaster. The symbiote did not affect Harry at all when he was wearing it. But when Peter was the one who was wearing it, symbiote began affecting him and did it very quickly. His climax when he removes the suit is such a joke. I'm not even talking about the fact that Miles beat him while he was wearing the symbiote. As bad as it is, there is something even worse. It's the fact that Peter removes the suit only after Miles has beat some sense into him and pretty much allowed him to do it. And after that, there are no consequences. Everything is forgiven. Peter immediately feels sorry for what he has done.
These last few days. Miles, I'm sorry. That's what Spider-Man do. That's what Spider-Man do. That's what Spider-Man do. That's what Spider-Man do.
When I first saw that the sequel is going to feature symbiote, I thought it's going to be really interesting. Peter in this universe has gone through a lot of stuff, made sacrifices, especially in the 10 years he's been Spider-Man. And there is bound to be some frustration and hate in him after all that's happened. I thought that when he gets bonded with the symbiote, he's going to release all the pain and anger that's been built up all these years. I thought that by that logic, when he gets the suit, he's going to get tempted by the power it gives and do something he'll regret. Something serious, like maybe killing a person, maybe Kraven. Or he will be really close to killing him, but stop himself in the end, because he will realize that it is not who he is. But no, nothing like that happens. Miles saves him from the symbiote after being in a cage, exhausted for like a day. We can even see that he is weak and can't do anything before we fight Kraven. And so he removes the symbiote because Miles made him do it. Peter didn't do anything serious and there are no consequences to his actions. Nothing truly evil has been done by him. Why would I care about something that is happening if there are no consequences? He didn't even hurt MJ in that chase scene. That would have hinted to him that maybe the suit is not good for him and he should get rid of it, but there is nothing like that. This other weird thing I've noticed is that the devs really like butchering previously established scenes from Spider-Man media now for some reason. Because they made an MJ mission in which Symbiote takes control of Peter's sleeping body. As far as I know, this is taken from the Spectacular Spider-Man TV show, and in that show it made sense, because Symbiote took control of Peter not just to cause havoc, like it was in the game, but to appeal to Peter, to strengthen his bond with him by helping him out with his problems. That was the point. What can we gather from this section in the game? Well, Symbiote is evil and that chase with Mary Jane was cool, but that is pretty much it. The point of it now is to show the player how terrifying Symbiote is from the eyes of a regular human. This way I'd say this moment is not as memorable as it was in the show. It feels like they wanted to give us fan service by returning familiar moments from before and presenting it in a different way, but it doesn't really work, I'd say. There is no meaning to it, it's just a cool scene that moves the story forward. But let's rotate back to when I was talking about Miles being Peter's rescuer and discuss him. A young man that is searching for his place in life and trying to live up to his mentor. He just straight up sucks. The only thing he does in the story is, like I said, he constantly saves Peter when he's about to die or fails to do something. He's always there, always ready to save Peter from failure. Not just Miles, everybody is doing it. But outside of that, detached from Peter, he is not that interesting by himself. I really did not care when Miles was on the screen by himself. He is boring. I did not expect something interesting to happen when Miles was involved, because he can just fix everything, even make people come back to life. Again, what's the point of being invested if there are no consequences? That's why when I was nearing the end of the game, I did not understand. Why are there two Spider-Men if one of them is a completely bland character? Originally, I thought there will be some sort of dynamic between the two, maybe they'd argue about the methods of keeping the city safe, helping each other out. We got a really weird form of helping out, in the form of one being completely useless and the other one constantly wiping his bottom in his old age.
Old age? Hey, I might be older, but I'm not old.
And also an absurd dynamic of Peter fighting for his life while Miles is asking someone out in the middle of literal apocalypse. Remember how I said that the devs butchered some scenes from Spider-Man media? Well, I lied because they also made a lot of changes to the characters of the game. And I wouldn't have said anything if these changes made sense. But what we have is the if it's not broken, don't fix it type of situation, because all of these characters, Kraven, Venom, Harry, share the same thing. They are different from the canon for the sake of being different. Kraven, for example, is not a lone hunter that hunts his prey by himself anymore. Now he has an entire army that hunts for him. His motivation of coming to New York is actually really simple. He has cancer and wants to die in a battle with an opponent that is worthy of him. Even though he is dying from cancer, he is really strong, and I'm confused with how he is so strong. He ignores Scorpion's poison, MJ's stun gun. This is his big problem, as well as Wraith, by the way. She's another disaster in her own way. We've been teased her origin story in the DLCs, and I was interested to see what she'll become in the future. I know she's not in the main story in the sequel, but she was a very important character in the first game. I will immediately say that her design is atrocious. Insomniac can adapt original comic designs and make them look realistic in their games. But what the hell happened here? But her design is only a part of the problem. She doesn't have any superpowers, but somehow she fights Spider-Man as an equal and is able to swing around the city with her sickle. I'm okay with her wielding this sickle and fighting criminals. It would have also been cool to see her kill criminals with it. But the way she's portrayed here is so cringe. As well as Kraven. Let me remind you, he's just a man that gets his strength and speed enhanced by some unknown substances. It's so bad that during his boss fight he is so fast that even the game can't keep up with him, and He just teleports all over the place. He also killed almost every big Spider-Man villain with ease, as shown with Scorpion, but only with Scorpion. The rest are killed off screen, and that is so disrespectful in my opinion. These are extremely popular Spider-Man villains, and if you want to kill them, to push them aside as you did, at least show it to us. Heck, that would also show us how strong Kraven is and how we should be intimidated by him. You know what could have been an actually fun non-Spider-Man mission? A mission in which we play as one of the villains, fighting back against Kraven and his goons, eventually getting defeated. And we get something like this when we play as Venom. This mission is really fun. His combat is ruthless. You see how strong Venom is and how he's a force to be reckoned with. All the brutal moves, finishers and whatnot. Something like this with Rhino or Scorpion would have been really interesting. They are powerful villains that can do a lot of damage, and we would have seen that during the fight with Kraven's goons. But we would eventually be surrounded or captured in some sort of trap to be finished off by Kraven. But maybe I am pushing it too far. Maybe making more stealth sections as MJ and making her OP is a much better idea. But the one thing I like about Kraven is that he's the only character in this game whose story ends like it should. He came to this city looking for a worthy end, and that's what he got in the end. Harry is a mess as well. I was really interested to see what he'll be doing in the sequel after so many little teasers in previous games. On my first playthrough, I didn't even understand at first that during the second act of the story, writers tried to force his hate for Peter in these two scenes, and it's so forced and out of place that I genuinely did not understand that this is an important scene for the plot. Like, why are you so upset that the Foundation got destroyed? Your dad is a millionaire, you can always rebuild. Otto rebuilt his lab even though he's in a much worse financial situation. And why all of a sudden Norman expresses so much love for Peter in this scene? Like seriously, I still don't understand why this exists the way it is. Venom is like all over the place in this game. He's not someone who wants to kill Spider-Man. He's just a villain that wants to take over the world, literally. He just straight up covers the entire city in symbiote in one cutscene. This was previously in Web of Shadows, but there it made the entire story. We gradually build up to that moment, and it didn't last 2 hours. This game seriously has an entire Web of Shadows sections that lasts only 2 hours. He's really not interesting because of this. But I'll give the developers some props. His design and voice acting are awesome, and also his entire gameplay sequence is one of the best parts of this game. We've played as Venom before in a couple of games, but never has it been as cool as this. Pacing of the story is all over the place, as you can see from the overabundance of different themes I'm talking about. It's the most obvious at the end of the game, where the final act is super fast, you can't even comprehend what is happening. In one mission the city suddenly becomes fully infected with the symbiote, and then after a couple of missions the game very quickly ends. This is not how you do an event in the story so impactful. And again, it lasts for just a couple of hours, which is like, why? Spider-Man Web of Shadows is a game... is a game that they have clearly taken the inspiration for the infected city from. It would have been so much better if this event was like a vision that was shown to one of the Spider-Man by the meteorite, and they would have stopped Venom from, taking over the planet. This huge event in the story also got me thinking about how the art direction has changed. Previously we had a pretty grounded game. We constantly saw Peter interact with regular people as well as Spider-Man. The characters for the most part felt real. There were some outliers like the whole Sable organization and the demons. Even at that time some people didn't like this. But the game never became too unreal, if that makes sense. For the most part it felt grounded and real. Starting with Miles Morales, the art direction made a 180-degree turn. All of these underground thugs with weapons that look like they've been taken straight from Fortnite, and drugs on dudes that look like they came straight out of Star Wars. This was very odd, even for me, but in retrospect it's pretty obvious that this is the direction these games were going to be heading. And now in the sequel we have a bunch of stuff that makes the game feel like it's a game. You know that feeling when playing a game that makes you think, I know this is fiction, but it feels so real. Yeah, it's just not here at all. Like, how the hell did Peter make these spider arms? We all know that he doesn't have any money. There is like one missable line from Peter at the very beginning of the game.
Otto's old research really came through for these arms!
So, Otto made these arms, right? He poured all of his genius into it, and it still had very critical flaws, like it was affecting his psyche. And Peter fixed this issue, integrated the arms into his suit, and he did all of that off screen? To me, that doesn't make a lick of sense. Like, this is very important stuff for someone who is familiar with the story of the first game. And all of these robo-dogs, vulture drones,
What are you, vultures, kid?
symbiotes that have multiple colors. After beating the game, the symbiote nests do not disappear and become such an eyesore. Like you're watching people living their normal lives, car passing by, all seems normal, but then you turn your head around and see this giant skyscraper scale symbiote tree. And no one cares, police do nothing with it. And yeah, the police. We've seen them a lot in previous games. Peter worked closely with them, helped them out in story and open world. They exist in the sequel, but they feel like decoration. I remember police being in the story like once during the lizard chase, and that's it.
Great, now the police are involved.
There are no quests that involve the police or anything really. No crimes are being stopped by them. You can't see them doing something during the symbiote invasion or during any big event in the city. Now compare that to the first game. Spidey has a real ally who works in the police force, Yuri, and we interact with her and her co-workers a lot during the entire journey. We help them out during main story and side quests. Police is very often seen fighting crime on the streets. Even in Miles Morales, police can be seen in story missions and side quests, and they show up at crimes. A pretty big part of the character was tossed aside in Miles Morales, which is the police comms.
Ground teams, this is Stable Control. What's our status at the yard? Traffic control point Charlie, taking fire from the...
They were a pretty common thing to see in Spider-Man medium across the years, in movies, games, whatever. Now Spidey doesn't need them because he has a new way to be notified about crimes. He has a phone app that people can install and make reports of crimes happening. Which is fine, I like this, it feels like something Spider-Man would have done to help people. But this makes police even more obsolete. Like, come on, you've made police and Spider-Man work in tandem previously.
Officers, pull your wounded back. I'll handle this.
And you thought we wouldn't notice and critique the disappearance of them in the sequel? And overall, this story is a huge downgrade from what we saw previously. If you turn off your brain and just enjoy the spectacle, then yeah, it's awesome. But if you like to analyze video game stories on a deeper level, there is nothing for you here. But I can go on and on about this game, but let's wrap it up and move on to my final thoughts. So, overall, I'd say this game is good. Don't get me wrong, it has great gameplay, amazing graphics, okay side content, world actually feels alive this time, but the story bumps this game down so much for me that is honestly insane. After finishing it, I actually couldn't believe what I saw. This is the first time I've experienced such disappointment related to my favorite medium. I've been a huge fan of this universe since it came out in 2018. I watched every article, every video, presentation, and whatever content was available before the release. And after the release, because I couldn't play the game at the time, I've watched a huge amount of videos about this game. I remember waiting for each DLC to come out. When I finally had an opportunity to play it, I've swallowed it whole. Every trophy, every crime, web swing animation, every boss fight, every enemy base, every mildly famous line, I know them all.
Man, I did not miss dealing with Electro's elaborate supervillain antics while he was in the raft. Trapping the police with a network of energy transformers? Who does that?
And when the second game released, my Spider-Man 1 story repeated itself because I didn't have a PlayStation 5 to play it. I also didn't want to get spoiled this time, so I avoided spoilers as much as I could. But I couldn't avoid all the different opinions that people have been sharing across the internet. A lot of people loved the game and I wanted to love it as well. But also there were a lot of people that were saying that the game is atrocious, especially my brother who was able to play the game before me. I didn't want to believe it, but mentally I was preparing myself for the worst. And the worst did come. and I wasn't ready for it. This game left me demolished. All of these things, how sterile and safe it is, characters being too strong or too weak just because the game wants them to be, overall length of the game, it's shorter than the first game somehow, how much fan service there is that doesn't do anything good for the game in the long run. All of this stuff left me with so much anger and sadness that it's still in me. A year and a half that I first played it, and over 2 years it's been released. At the end of the day, who cares, right? It's just a video game, get over it. But like, I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels this way. This universe still has a special place in my heart. I loved the first game, the Miles Morales game was quite mediocre, but I still liked it, and I hoped that the sequel would be awesome. And it was awesome at times. The swinging is the best we've seen since Web of Shadows, combat, while being a bit limited, still is fun, graphics are very beautiful, lighting and weather effects are top-notch. The side content is meh, but gameplay carries it, but the story is so disappointing that it still depresses me. After all these years, it's very disappointing to see what this universe has become, from being a very unique and interesting take on Spider-Man, his world and the plot itself, to being this shallow, uninteresting and uninspired mess of a story. It is especially upsetting after seeing these teasers at the end of each game that were really hyping things up and made me genuinely interested to see what comes next, only to be disappointed in a medium like I have never been in my life.